Okay, so doing a little bit of backtracking in this video, we're going to be looking at the previous article of the Unearthed Arcana released beginning of October. This is providing 3 new sub-archetypes for the Cleric, Druid, and the Wizard. So I will put a link in the description there that gives you access to this free PDF. It is just on Dungeons & Dragons' main website, not too hard to find in the search bar. But let's fire it up and let's take a look. So as I was saying, we're going to be looking at the Cleric. Now this is the Twilight Domain. Now when you're creating a Cleric, domains are selected at during character creation, not at 3rd level like a lot of other classes and archetypes. So this is providing the new Twilight Domain, which would be selected at the beginning of character creation. So let's zoom in and take a look. The Twilight Domain governs the transition and the blending of light into darkness. It is the time of rest and comfort, but also the threshold between safety and the unknown. Deities of healing or respite, bravery or protection, travel or transition, or the night and dreams might grant their clerics the Twilight Domain. So one thing I thought that was really interesting in the description of Traveler Transition, there is listed examples of the Raven Queen as well as the Traveler. And please correct me if I'm wrong or if this is just a coincidence. It is neat to see the Raven Queen referencing Critical Role Season 1, well I guess Season 2 as well. But we're referencing the Tal'Dorei, and the Traveler referencing Jester's deity in Campaign 2. So please correct me if that's just a coincidence and I'm totally wrong about that. But I thought that was a nice little touch. I love seeing that. Clerics who serve these deities tend to be brave, delving into the darkness, to hold its dangers at bay and to bring comfort to those lost far from the light. Very nice. So starting at the new Dominion spells you're going to be having access to, starting off with Fairy Fire and Sleep, Darkness, Invisibility. Now Darkness will be coming back into some of the higher level abilities that are granted. I believe it's the last ability. So good to keep that in mind when playing a Twilight Domain Cleric, that you're going to be making a lot of use of the Darkness spell. So better get used to having that in the arsenal. Jumping over to the 9th level, we're granted Circle of Power as well as Dream. Now, Circle of Power is a 5th level illusion spell that's very beneficial to yourself as well as your party. It gives you a sphere of influence. Now, off the top of my head, I can't recall the radius of the sphere. I think it's 10 feet. And basically anybody within the sphere is going to have advantage on saving throws for spells. I think there might even be resistances. It's a pretty beefy defensive spell to have. Now Dream is more of a utility spell. You're basically able to do some crazy Inception shenanigans with a character that you know. You don't have to be in the same room or vicinity from what I'm aware. As long as you know the character, you should be able to tap into their dreams and basically use that as a messenger and sculpt their dream as well as sending other messengers to do the same thing. So a couple of neat, Dream is a really neat utility. Circle of Power is a very powerful defensive. You get your greater invisibility, which is awesome to have as well. So some pretty nice illusion spells in there. So let's start looking at the level 1 domain features. So you start off with proficiency to martial weapons and heavy armor. Now I have to look this up real quick because I can't recall off the top of my head. Sorry, I got my book here. Sorry to hold things up here. Looking at Cleric, yada yada yada. Proficiencies, just simple weapons. Okay, so I wasn't sure if Clerics normally started with martial weapons. I didn't think they did. And I'm not sure if there's any, and I'm curious if there's any other domains that gives you that proficiency. I thought there is. And I think I'm thinking of some of the domains in the Xanathar's Guide. I think that's where you can get another proficiency starting with martial weapons. So I don't think that's anything new, but still nice to be able to have if you're selecting the Twilight Domain. Okay, now moving on to so you get heavy armor as well as martial weapons. So you're going to be pretty beefy, so not too bad. Now, Eyes of the Night is an interesting ability. It's basically going to be granting you dark vision, but you have no maximum range to it, which is very cool. But not only that, you also get to grant that to a number of, basically your party that you can see within 10 feet. So not a huge radius on that, but still, if you're stealthing together, you're going to be pretty tight-knit. Lasts for 10 minutes, and so your party's going to have dark vision as well. So very nice, never bad. Now this feature I really like, the Vigilance Blessing. It is a level 1 Twilight Domain, so you get this right off the bat. And basically you're going to be able to give yourself or another creature, one of your party members, advantage on initiative rolls. And that's something that I always like to favor, being able to get that initiative. So an advantage on the roll, and there's not a lot of things that do tweak having an advantage for initiative. So yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's a really great thing to have at the first level. Very nice. Going to come into use quite a bit. Now, getting into level 2, we're looking at the Channel Divinity Twilight Sanctuary. Now, what this is going to do, you're basically going to be, as it says, emanating a 30-foot radius sphere around yourself, and it is circled around your, centered on yourself, and it says for 1 minute. Now, whenever a creature, including yourself, ends its turn in the sphere, you do get a couple of benefits. The main one being you get 1d8 temporary hit points. So that, yeah, never a bad thing with that. And you also get and the effect of being charmed or frightened. So what's kind of nice about that is that if one of your party members is charmed or frightened and you do have the sphere going on, you can just run up to them, get into their proximity, and you're going to be able to help them out with that. So that's nice. They don't have to do like a saving throw or anything against your spell there. So nope, very good. That's great. Let's move along here. Now, they do drop in a little tip about temporary hit points, as they do not stack unless specifically noted. So I'm glad they added that in there just to kind of help clear that up a bit. Moving into level 6, now this is probably one of the ability that I would be most interested in if I was creating a Twilight Cleric. Is let's read it here. Starting from the beginning, you basically get saving throws against being frightened, but not only that is if you're in dim, light, or darkness, you can use a bonus action to magically give yourself flying speed equal to your walking speed. Very cool. So man, so 6th level, it's not that big of a grind to get to that. And anytime you can give yourself flying speed like that, and it's going to be equal to your walking speed. So pretty dope. I think that's awesome, and I think that's something that could work really well in tandem with the the Gloom Ranger. I think one of the Ranger archetypes in the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and this type of archetype really takes advantage of being in darkness, dim light. So I think that could really work well in tandem. Moving on to level 8, you do get the Divine Strike. So this is basically going to be adding 1d8 psychic damage. Now, never bad to have psychic damage when you need it. There are some high level monsters that are a little bit more susceptible to psychic damage, so good to be able to output that if you can. When you get to 14th, you do get to bump that up to a 2d8. Now, what's the restrictions on this? You gain the ability to infuse your weapons, yada yada yada, once on each of your turns. Yeah, once on each of your turns. Yeah, when you hit a creature with a weapon. So that's pretty dope. Yeah, once on each of your turns. I gotta make sure I'm reading that properly. You can cause the attack to deal. Yep, very nice, very nice. Yeah, that's great. 2d8 psychic, never bad. So now we are getting into the last ability that you do earn at level 17, being a Twilight Domain. So now what you get is you can harness the shrouding power of night to protect your allies and stymie your foes. Whenever you cast, so the darkness spell, this is where your 3rd level, the darkness spell comes into play. Using any of your spell slots, you can choose a number of creatures that you can see, including yourself, equal to your wisdom mod. And these creatures are going to be able to see through the darkness. Now, darkness spell is a magical darkness, so it's something that's not going to go away from torchlight, anything like that. So again, I think this can be a pretty dope combination of being able to set up an ambush of sorts and get a pretty good surprise round on a group. Now, I think that is it. Yeah, so it does go from, the last abilities are from level 8 and then into the 17th. Like I say, I think both of these, the flying speed in darkness, I think some of these later abilities can really work well in tandem with other archetypes that want darkness, like the Gloom Ranger. Yeah, I think the whole that's going to make a huge use of a low-level darkness spell, and you're going to be getting a lot of utilization with that as you are getting into higher levels. Because being able to get your party members to be able to see through the magical darkness, that is pretty good. Now, I think that would just apply to yourself, to your own spell, not some other situation. You can choose a number of creatures that you can see, including an equal to your wisdom modifier. The creatures can see through the darkness, so it's specific to that, to your spell. But still, not a bad thing to have for doing something like ambushes. Now, I think the 6th level is really cool to be able to get that flying speed. Like I say, anytime you can get yourself flying speed, that is very cool. So, again, it's only going to be able to use in dim light or darkness, so anytime you're doing any dungeon delving, things like that, caverns, underdark, still very useful to be able to get flying speed, even when in underground. Divine Strike, again, just being, like I was saying before, getting to get that psychic damage can be very helpful for some of the higher level enemies that you may be coming across. And other than that, I thought Vigilance Blessing is pretty cool. Being able to get advantage on your initiative rolls, never a bad thing, and you are going to be getting that at 1st level right off the bat, so that's okay. I mean, the Twilight Sanctuary, the Sphere of Influence, again, not bad. Temporary hit points. You can remove a Frightened or a Charm if somebody is getting screwed over by that. So yeah, not bad. I think it's an interesting archetype, and I think it's one that could really pair well with other archetypes that take advantage of being in a dark setting, dim light, magical darkness. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to do some neat tandem work with other archetypes that, like I keep saying, tie into the whole darkness theme. So very cool. I hope that's helpful if you are interested in the Twilight Domain. Next video is going to be looking at the Druid and the Wizard. Now, what does the Druid offer? I think it's the Wildfire Circle. So very interested about that. I haven't looked into it yet, but so we're going to take a look at those later on. I hope these videos are helpful. One thing I would like to do is to do live streams of doing character creations, just so any guys can drop in, say hi if you have any tips or advice. I would always appreciate it. I'm by no means a pro on any of this stuff, all just for hobby. Anyways, I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, spank the bell, whatever else there is to do on the YouTube world. Thanks for watching. Take care.